All right, let's talk about curriculum design, but we're going to do it a little differently today. We're going to think like architects. Our topic is curriculum situational analysis, which is really just a fancy way of saying it's the essential blueprint you need before you even think about laying a single brick of a new lesson plan.
So, let's just get right to it with a question that I'm pretty sure keeps a lot of us educators up at night. Why do so many curricula just fall flat? You know what I mean, right? You pour all this time and energy into it. You craft this plan that looks amazing on paper, and then nothing. It just doesn't connect with the students.
Well, you know what the problem usually is. It really boils down to this: trying to build a curriculum without doing your homework first. It's like building a beautiful house on a foundation of sand. It might look incredible from the outside, but if you haven't tested the ground, you haven't checked the local environment, that whole thing is just destined to crumble. It's not built for the reality of the people who are supposed to be inside.
So how do we avoid that kind of disaster? How do we build something that actually stands strong? Well, it all starts with having the right blueprint. So let's get into what a situational analysis really is.
Okay, so here's the official definition, but let's just cut through the academic jargon. Situational analysis is basically the detective work you do before you start designing. It's the process of looking around and examining the entire context, the whole situation, where your curriculum is going to live. You're asking, what's really going on here? What are the real-world conditions for my students, my fellow teachers, the school, and even the wider community that this thing I'm building has to work for?
And hey, this isn't some brand new flashy idea. This goes way back. I mean, the famous curriculum expert Ralph Tyler was saying this all the way back in 1949. He said, no single source of information is adequate. And that's it, right there. That's the heart of it. You can't just look at one thing. You've got to see the whole landscape.
Okay, so if we have to look at the whole landscape, that can sound kind of overwhelming, right? Where do you even begin? Well, just like a good architect, we can break it down into a few key areas to survey. So we can split this big context into two buckets that make it way easier to handle: external factors and internal factors. External is everything outside the school walls. Think about what parents expect, what local employers are looking for, or even policies coming down from the educational system. Then you've got the internal factors, everything happening inside the school. This is your students, their skills, their actual needs. It's your teachers, their strengths, their weaknesses, their experience. It's the school's vibe, its resources, all that stuff. And you absolutely cannot ignore one for the other. I mean, imagine this. You build this incredible state-of-the-art curriculum for robotics. Sounds awesome, right? But you completely miss that all the local tech companies are screaming for web developers. You've created a brilliant program that doesn't connect to the community's needs. That's a blueprint failure. You got to see both sides.
Okay, so we know what we need to look at, but how? How do we actually gather all this information without just, guessing? We can't just go with our gut feelings as much as we might want to. We need a real tool, a powerful diagnostic tool to do this right.
And that brings us to the master tool in our Architect's Toolkit, the needs assessment. This is how we get super specific about what we're actually trying to build or fix.
So what is a needs assessment? At its core, it's a systematic way to find the gap between where your learners are right now and where you want them to be. It's not about what you think they need. It's an evidence-based process to pinpoint the actual measurable distance between what is and what should be. And there's a really clear 5-step recipe for this. First, you figure out your goals. What should students be able to do? Then you get your stakeholders, teachers, parents, maybe even students, to rate how important each of those goals is. Step 3, you use those ratings to rank them. What's most critical? Now, step 4 is the magic moment. You compare where students actually are with those top priority goals. That's where you find the biggest discrepancies, the biggest gaps. And finally, step 5, you plan your attack. You design your curriculum specifically to close those major gaps you just uncovered.
All right, so the needs assessment is a super important tool. But how does it fit into the whole construction project? Let's zoom back out and walk through the entire process for conducting the full situational analysis. It really breaks down into 4 manageable steps. First up, you've got to identify the problem. Are you building a brand new course from scratch? Or are you trying to solve a bigger issue, like improving literacy across the board? Once you know the problem, step 2 is to pick which factors you need to investigate. Remember that big list of internal and external stuff? You don't have to look at everything. Just pick the ones that are actually relevant to your specific problem. Step 3 is the legwork. Go get the data.
We're talking surveys, interviews, looking at test scores, whatever it takes. And finally, step 4, you take everything you've learned and make some real, actionable recommendations. This is your blueprint taking shape.
I know. This sounds like a lot of work. So why bother? Is it really worth the effort? Absolutely, yes. And here's why. First, you're swapping guesswork for actual evidence. No more, I think this will work. You'll have data. Second, your curriculum becomes truly responsive. It's custom built for your students, your teachers, your community. It just fits. This also means your planning becomes so much smarter. Your objectives, your content, it all just clicks into place. And maybe the biggest win of all, you build buy-in from the start. When you include everyone in the process, they feel ownership. They're on your team.
And all of this work leads us right here to the finished structure. When you follow this process, you don't just get a stack of lesson plans, you get a real blueprint, one that's built to last.
What you have is a foundation that's strong, a structure that's stable, and a design that actually serves the people inside. So as we close this out, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Think about your own school, your own classroom. What crucial piece of your educational landscape have you been overlooking?
Everything we talked about today is grounded in some really solid research from the field of curriculum development. For those of you who want to dig deeper, here are the key sources that helped us draw up this blueprint.